everyone. Welcome to Asia Business Talk Show, the preferred platform for business owners, investors, regulators, and talents to drive for us to drive constructive communication globally and to solve the latest business challenges. So allow me to introduce the panelists today. Yi Hao, Senior Managing Partner of ACMF BOSR Consulting. Steve, Senior Managing Partner, ACMF BOSR Consulting. Nikki, Senior Managing Partner, ACMF Business Application, and Kizun, Senior Managing Partner, ACMF Human Capital. Jeremy, Senior Managing Partner of ACMF Corporate Services, and Yin Hai, Senior Managing Partner, ACMF Human Capital. Edward, Senior Managing Partner, ACMF Corporate Services. Let me introduce the host of today, Chong, Senior Managing Partner of ACMF Strategy Alliances. And myself, my name is Luis. I'm Head of Global Strategy of ACMF Strategy and Grow. So the details of the speakers, panelists, and hosts and the contact in email can be found at facebook.com/ACMF Group. So today, before we introduce the first speaker, let's talk about Malaysia lockdown, movement control order, 18 to 31st March, first session. So it's actually caught us by surprise, but positive about it. Yeah, it's just a few weeks. And then the whole thing got extended until mid of April. And it's tough, but it's still only 1 month. So we think, yes, we can hold on and business will be back to normal soon. And without any, it extend to April 28th. And now it become quite dangerous because some company may already close down or will close down, and the jobs or unemployment rate is going very high, and MCO extended to May 12th, so another extension. So will it end there? We do not know. So pandemic this round is not only killing people, but quite many businesses are dying also. So business owners have been told to do many things to survive, right? Pivot, crisis, opportunity, what will be a new norm, what is a downsize, a refocus, and a lot, online, offline. And that's not clear how best to handle this. So business owner, basically, you need to know how to understand what their current business situation is urgently, evaluate the impact of short-term and long-term internally and also in the market, and understand what options are viable for their industry and particular business situation, and how to evaluate option and choose the best one and implement the plans successfully, implementation. So the ACMF Corporate Services and ACM Human Capital joint force launch a business survival plan. Get your customized, personalized business transformation plan right here. So critical things you will learn is that know your 3 months, 6 months, 12 months cash flow situation to know what your business needs to survive, and assess market from 5 key perspectives: economic impact, competitor landscape, different scenario, identify key high impact action, evaluate option, creation of crisis response business rescue plan, charge up and deploy your army. So this is the program. So result to expect in short term is business survivability, mid-term business recovery and transformation, long-term business growth and success. And will you be the one statistic or outlier? So group.com, business survival at acmgroup.com, and the link will be shared at the Zoom chat and also the Facebook live. Yeah, so to reach us out. So without further ado, allow me to introduce our first speaker, Mr. Tanner Nagib, co-founder and strategic advisor of Beatnk and REBL. So Tanner have more than 20 years experience in customer experience, digital transformation, and marketing, and have with a reputable organization like Ogilvy, Hakuhodo, and Burnett Arc Worldwide. And he also supported reputable brands like Philip Morris DIAGEO, Nestle, and Tiger Beer. So feel free to ask questions pertaining the topic in Zoom chat room. We'll answer if we have enough time. So let's welcome Tanner Nagib, Marketing for the Gen Z Era. So I will stop sharing and hand over the screen to Tanner.
Thanks, Lewis. Good afternoon and happy Labor Day to everyone. I guess everybody's still stuck at home, although it's Labor Day. So to kick off, I think to sort of caveat this presentation of what I'm sharing, really need to sort of put in perspective that this was written because we do believe that it is the time that we're in now is the perfect opportunity for brands and marketers to sort of take stock, take a moment to look at what is and what isn't working for your businesses, because the world is standing still, even momentarily. But at the same time, to not be overly single-minded or not overly focused, and forego that macro view of where this current evolution is really taking us. Yeah. So ultimately, the future is a blank slate, right? And we need to embrace that. And this begins with sort of shifting your mindsets. We see it as an opportunity to learn new things, to unlearn old things, and to relearn the evolution of things. And this is really, instead of looking at it as just plans in a pandemic, it is also a post-COVID-19 recovery marketing plan for the Gen Z era. And we use the Gen Z here as the generation, COVID generation, just to clarify. And I wanted to sort of start the informative portion of the presentation with the reality where we started the year of 2020 at New Year's Eve with this sort of positive mindset. 2019 was a rough year for many people. And we said to ourselves, okay, 2020 is going to be a great year. This is how we're going to move forward. But the reality is that instead, 2020 started with heightened tensions between countries. There was an increased attention surrounding global climate change. And then we had the Australian bushfires. But all these things at the start of the year obviously doesn't compare to our newly declared public enemy number one, which is COVID-19. So we are experiencing an unprecedented number of challenges on multiple fronts, and that's the first thing that we need to remind ourselves with. Flipping what we know as normal literally on its head, right? Consumers are stuck at home. Human resource management is being questioned. Restructuring of retail capabilities and the consideration of brand readiness for crisis management comes into question. And the reality is that changes will be felt by virtually every brand in every category imaginable. The moment we think that we're not affected by it is the start of our challenges. Yeah? But although it's all doom and gloom on paper, there are opportunities for brands to act positively and to make real impact, something that's ultimately lasting. If you look back 100 years and through all the other pandemics and world wars that we've gone through as Earth, we know that what we do now will really be proving ourselves for the future, right? Crisis proofing. So what this document isn't is that there's a lot of reports in the market about how you can address the current situation, how you can advertise to your consumers and maintain that connection. We've looked at that, and whilst those are all right and spot on, the question does remain, will the end of COVID-19 simply mark the end of the turbulent first chapter in an era we believe to be of change and shifting global priorities? My answer to that is this. Right? And as difficult as it seems, the point of this presentation is we should not lose sight of the bigger picture while we battle COVID-19. Okay? And the reason I say this is climate change didn't stay home while we battled the pandemic. That's still happening. I'm sure there are reports of cleaner air and dolphins swimming in Venice, but the reality is that our sort of seabeds are still filled with plastic. So pollution legacies are still being felt in our environments. And the harsh reality, and we're seeing that in all countries, is the fact that the impact of mass unemployment will increase the pressure to deal with social issues. And this will continue to be a challenge for markets at large. But everybody's going to argue, isn't the COVID-19 crisis the biggest hurdle right now? The answer is yes. But it's not about reacting to COVID-19. It's not about tweaking logos or even having just humanitarian acts or clever stay-at-home campaigns. It really is about viewing the long-term effects of COVID-19 and what to expect as people change the way they live their lives. Right? It's not time for what we call trend jacking. Whilst it's fun, it isn't the time for it. So I wanted to start examining this point of view with 4 key elements, right? The first one being about how local governments versus public enemy number 1, COVID-19. We know that every country in the world is reacting to the crisis with some sort of lockdown, shutting down non-essential businesses, closing their borders, and many have introduced economic stimulus packages. I'm not going to talk to you about the economic element of things, and because I'm not an expert. But if we stick to the fact that if we stick to COVID-19, the one thing that history teaches us is that the impact of illnesses will be felt long after the first wave passes on, right? And at the minimum, it will be 12 to 18 months before a vaccine can be developed, and that is asking a lot. So things like the new social norms like social distancing, restriction on public gatherings, looks likely to remain as part of our lives, at the very least, to the end of 2020. And the question that comes along is, will people return to high streets and malls? Will they go back to cafes and bars and restaurants? Will we be able to enjoy music, art, or theater again? We're not sure, right? But the one most straightforward method in reintroducing new habits is to disrupt the old ones. The second point of consideration is all industries will suffer at different degrees. Now, a lot of focus and a lot of conversation is surrounding the brick and mortar brands and businesses, your retailers, the restaurants and the F&B sectors are the center of conversation. And everybody else is thinking, oh, if I go digital or if my business is digital and if I'm in a technology sector, I will thrive. Whilst there's a grain of truth in an oversimplification. Yeah, companies like Facebook and Instagram and all these sort of social platforms are recording an unprecedented surge in usage, but the reality is that brands are not spending on advertising. So their revenue streams are down. Brands are reconfiguring how they approach things. And so the reality is that whilst unicorn brands and unicorn products may thrive, the pressure on brands to complete their digital transformation is only going to be intensified with competition. So if today I'm the one lone e-commerce platform in a market, by the end of this period, you're going to have 5 competitors for certain, right? And this will sort of lead into churn and consolidation and ultimately waste. And that's not forgetting the fact that the pressure of the crisis will sort of put pressure on our digital infrastructure. We can already see this with Netflix, YouTube, Facebook, Disney Plus, and so on and so forth, who have been forced to voluntarily degrade their own service and dial down streaming quality as they attempt to meet the needs of society. The question that you need to think about is, will countries be able to muscle up their technology infrastructure fast enough to enable this newly digital economy to thrive? Not pointing any fingers to any particular government or market, but the reality is such. If anybody's been working from home, our internet's been fluctuating, Netflix is not so great anymore, and so on and so forth. The third thing that we need to keep in mind is layoffs and loss of income are already all around us. In the first 2 weeks in the US, during their lockdown, they already experienced more than 10 million claims for government unemployment assistance. I don't have the latest numbers with me right now, but if you look at any sort of economic report on Bloomberg or other platforms, we know the recession is looming over us, or if not already here, right? So the businesses that will be immune to these effects will be ultimately rare birds. And the only question now is, how quickly will we recover from it? So many challenges, so little time, everybody's going around that. So the point is, so whilst businesses, reputation and growth are important objectives, it's not about that on its own. It's about building sustainable models that will help or give us a chance to stand up and prosper in these new realities. There's a very famous saying after World War II where brands that keep going and keep going in specific ways emerge from the economic shocks ahead of them. So at this current juncture, as a marketer, we realize that marketing activities are being put on pause. There are a lot of budget reallocations going on. Business leaders are deprioritizing marketing in favor of what they see as critical, and there's nothing wrong with that. But our role as brand experts then is about reminding brand marketing leaders or brand leaders the opportunities and considerations that should not be overlooked. Okay, so what I'll sort of share with you now is probably 8 key points we think brands and marketers need to sort of keep in mind. They're thought starters. They are sort of, they're supposed to get you to think about it. There's no sort of paper cut measure that every brand can use as far as marketing is concerned. So I'll start off with a few things. One is, whatever your brand has been doing to steer change, keep going. And we're talking about the fact that if your brand is already working on driving climate change or fighting for gender equality, keep at it, right? Don't lose sight of this. Don't redistribute budgets so aggressively that the momentum of what you've already been working on is completely lost. Those challenges are still in front of us. They still need to be addressed. The second thing that we want to talk about is we need to start learning to embrace the new normal. And the sooner we do this, the sooner we can sort of address them. We know for a fact that with all the public health interventions that's happening around the world, there is no way we're going to go back to what we know as normal immediately or anytime soon for that matter. So it's not just about marketing it, but it's also about communicating with your entire organization, right? You need to demonstrate your value proposition to your staff, figure out how to apply work from home practices moving forward, even though the MCOs and the sort of control movement methods are being lifted. We need to continue that practice because realistically, our productivity will drop when you're sitting down in an office afraid of being infected by another person or going out to buy lunch. Things will change in the office. And this is one of the things that we need to sort of consider. The third thing, more brand related, is be the architect of change, lead the conversations. In many studies, and this reference is from the Global Web Index, 83% of consumers in the marketplace believe that brands should provide flexibility in payment options, while 81% think they should offer free services to help pitch in with the problems that they're having, right? So whilst COVID-19 may be a disruptor, it is also the right time for brands to build lasting relationships through positive and proactive communication policies, right? Reassure your consumers and your users that your service and product quality has not changed at all. In fact, if you could, tell them that you're meeting or even surpassing their expectations as a brand, right? And how you're adapting into the new health and safety norms or policy requirements. These are education pieces that we need to consider telling the people out there. The fourth one, which a lot of brands are doing now, is reviewing your content strategy. And when I say content strategy, it isn't entirely about social content. It's really about what you tell the world, right? Marketers and agencies out there need to be mindful not to take commercial advantage right now. It's not about hard selling products, and it's definitely not about making extreme profits and showing that off, right? Brands have an opportunity more than most people out there to strengthen their bond with consumers. But again, I'll sort of reiterate, it isn't about clever brand ads. It isn't about creating content that is cool, right? Or creating content for its own sake. It's really a question of if your brand is in a position to make a difference, whether it's producing PPEs or helping the poor or helping the people less fortunate, why wouldn't you do it? This is the perfect time to sort of flex your muscle in that space. The fifth one, and again, we're seeing a lot of brands sort of implement concepts already, is reimagining the consumer journey and innovate. We know that we need to adapt content strategies. We know we need to maintain brand quality and consistency, but it will only take you half of the way if you must, right? What we really need to start thinking about is consumer journeys. How are people going to consume my product, my brand, my service? How's that going to change? How are we going to help them still leverage on our brand without affecting their health capabilities or sort of affecting their chances of being infected, right? So one very good example, and this came on very early in March, Volkswagen already moved into purchase at home space, where you can download the app, order your car, go through the rigorous sort of banking profiles and systems and literally deliver the car to your doorstep. But I think as time progresses, this needs to evolve. It needs to consider, how do I visit a car showroom, for instance, and still experience the car without the dangers of being in a group or being exposed to a large group of people? Is it time for us to invest in IoT technologies that could help track and identify health and safety threats, even within your retail environment? There are already technologies that can do that. Is it time for us to invest in those things? Excuse me. Many people have sort of called me from schools, for example, who tell me, oh, my school can't achieve this sort of technology advancements because schools are face-to-face driven. We need contact with children, etc., etc. But I think it's not about converting your entire business entirely. It's about looking at innovation to assist you in some parts of the journey. So brands like Wonderbly in the UK, who's created books for children to read and interact online, are examples of what brands can sort of adopt. And we've seen some schools sort of adopt them. Okay. The sixth concept, although not entirely new, is collaboration. In the early 2000s, we already saw a surge of brand collaboration driven primarily with the hipster sort of lifestyle. But with the arrival of Covid-19, marketing products, sales conversions, distribution challenges are becoming more and more apparent. The concept of collaborations may see, and we think that is already happening, another series of expansions, right? So collaboration with artificial intelligence bots, for example, to interact with your prospective customers is going to become a norm. You're gonna see a lot of partnerships between restaurants and things like Masterclass. You're gonna have to try and take advantage of partnering with the likes of Lazada and Grab and sort of Lala Move deliveries, for example. The more open you are as a brand to collaborate with other brands, the more of a foothold you're gonna have for the rest of the year. The seventh point is reconsider your brand's involvement in the people's economy. The concept of the people's economy really is about becoming more consumer need focused version of your business rather than what it is today. An example in the marketplace would be your 24-hour retail shops. Early this year, brands like 7-Eleven, Family Mart, My News around the world were announcing expansion into multiple folds of stores across countries. Maybe it's time for them to reconsider, for instance, creating delivery hubs and employing more delivery guys to distribute their products in major cities. Maybe it's time for us to think about how we can drive employment back up through our businesses. And the last one, of course, as far as the 8 pointers are going forward, is to give back when you can, where you can, and leverage on local where possible. I know the economy is a global piece, but the reality is that if we can look at ways to involve local organizations, change our manufacturing routes and agencies, for example, it is time for us and for brands to sort of help economies. And the one way we can help is what we're doing with our own countries. I'm not saying we shouldn't work with international friendlies, but it's something that we need to consider, right? So to end this segment, and I just have a few more slides after this, is we need to acknowledge the fact that the key difference in advertising landscape or marketing landscape between the last crisis and is that it's combined, it creates a drift towards short-term planning. One message I have to say to all the marketers out there is don't fall into that trap. You need to look at things from the long-term perspective. You need to measure your changes then and apply accordingly. So with that, I just wanted to share 3 really short micro trends that we see happening and we see moving forward. The first one is embracing the possibilities of virtual launches to expand audience. Now the event industry is going to suffer dramatically. They are not going to be able to open up till the end of the year. There are a lot of changes that need to be done. But if Giorgio Armani could teach us anything, is that they launched their fashion show this year completely virtual with no one in the runway. Not a single soul in there, but it still garnered more media value than its conventional shows ever. So implementing things like augmented reality or virtual reality, live streaming, so on and so forth, is going to be something your brand needs to consider. The second thing, and more press related, is press briefings via teleconferencing is going to become the new norm. In countries like Japan, the Philippines, and Thailand, there's always been a preferred interaction where journalists go through a face-to-face interview. And this mindset needs to change, right? New media training models for live broadcast interviews should be a priority now. We should be training our clients. We should be talking to the brand marketers or the face of brands about training them for online presentations. And we've got to stop arguing about whether Zoom is safe or not. Technologies will differ in security measures, whether you choose to use Google Meet or Zoom or Skype. It doesn't really matter as long as you've got a system in place to manage them. And the last piece is really about it is time for influencers to give back. In recent times, as far as the marketing world is concerned, there's been a lot of debate about the value of influencers or the value of superstars, you know, your TV superstars across the globe. I think it is not a devalue what's happening today. I think what influencers and stars need to start thinking about is how they can give back to the brands that have engaged them in the past. It's time for us to have that conversation with them where we've scratched your back in the past. It's time for you to scratch our back, to sort of simplify. So those are the 11 sort of points that I wanted to take everyone through. And so while it's right to say that we don't know where the future is, all is far from lost. We believe that canny brands still have an opportunities out there to pursue, as long as we take a more considered and flexible approach to the use of technology. We need to embrace global connectivity and promote a less polarized view of the world. We can probably go back to the start of 2020 in a much happier mood in due course. So if you guys would like to read the full piece of the document, you can log on to the website beatnk.com. It will lead you to the full opinion piece that could be your reading material at home. That's it. Thank you. Back to you, Lewis.
Hey, thank you, Tanner. Thank you very much. I would like to invite the panelists and other speaker in case anything you would like to share or any question or you would like to clarify. Yeah, Tanner, just a question. Just it's not really related to the topic that you talk about, but it's kind of interesting to cover it. Do you believe that COVID-19 crisis is the last this round, or there will be another round, or potentially? So if let's say yes, then how business should prepare for the second round?
I mean,
I'm not too sure here.
I think a few things that we need to think about, right? One is influenzas and illnesses. If you look at the history of it since 1918, on average, 3 to 5 years, something new is reintroduced. And if you look at the history of pandemics or epidemics, and we've only really managed to have one vaccine, which is smallpox. Right? Nothing else has ever seen a vaccine, not yet anyway. People are very close to, scientists are very close to solving HIV, but that's still in the pipeline. And for as long as the human race is venturing into territories that isn't ours, is the exposure to more diseases are going to continue to happen. But I think if you put the science element to aside, because of the way the economy is built, we're going to go through this next set of challenges, which is the economic crash. We're going to see property issues going skyrocketing. We're going to see unemployment that's going to continue to grow, and these are all just going to continue into a ball of challenges, right? And for us to prepare really is just to learn from the ones we had before. So if you look at Taiwan, Singapore, Hong Kong, for example, they learned from SARS and they reacted faster than anyone else in Asia Pacific, minus China, right? So I guess we need to learn from our mistakes in the past, and that's really the only way we can sort of approach this at the moment. I feel. I could be wrong.
Thanks, thank you. So anyone have a question for Tanner?
Yeah, Tanner Ginhai here from ACMF Human Capital. Question, talking about the more personal touch and things like that, getting the brands to be more heart-based, right? And one of the factors that I think about is Malaysian staff in general are not famous for being great at customer experience.
I'll reserve my comments on that one, but yes.
So what do you think companies can do to enhance that customer experience, that personal touch that you're speaking about?
I mean, in this current day and age, where digital sort of communication is going to be priorities, is we can build, for example, robots, online robots or AI machines that mimic a human being. There was an ongoing joke many years ago when I was based out of Singapore, where if you had a customer service officer who's Singaporean with a Malaysian mentality, but speaks like a Filipino in English, you'd have the perfect service customer out there, manager out there, right? So robots, online robots have reached a stage in development where we can literally mimic human beings. One step you could take. but that's high investment, right? But I think what we can do right now is sort of rethink that journey. So the example I gave about the 24-hour retail market, right? Right now, consumers don't really care if the staff behind your counter is smiling. What they care about is being able to walk in, feel safe. I'm not rubbing shoulders amongst people. Nobody's coughing in my face and whatnot, right? So we need to, as for example, for Malaysia that's reopening on Monday, I hope restaurants and retail platforms sort of figure out exactly how they're going to manage consumers coming back in. Supermarkets have been doing a decent job the past 6 weeks. But if you have experienced it and you go to a place like Bangsa Village, you're still rubbing shoulders with people. The control is, at best, a 50% effort. I think we need to up that game. Brands and retailers especially need to up that game in the coming weeks, because we do not need a second wave. Does that answer your question?
Right, thanks. Yeah, so Tanner, so that also tells me that I think one of the priorities for companies that are opening up is to not necessarily about the smiling and pleasantness, but about how to deal with potentially people not following the regulations, and how to do that in a way that's diplomatic and empathic and compassionate, I guess.
Correct. I mean, that is really the fundamentals, right? And it goes into not just how we deal with consumers, but it's also how we deal with our own people. Layoffs and pay cuts are affecting everyone. So where we can, we should figure out a method to not fire anybody. Because the more unhappy they are about their pay cuts, the more they'll treat your consumers badly. Right? So it's a cycle, if you must. We treat one person nice, he'll treat the other person nice, you know?
Yeah, thanks, man. Thanks for the question, and thanks for the answer, Tanner. I would like to continue with the session. Allow me to introduce the second speaker of today, Dirk Kusha, International Performance Coach, co-founder of Custom Performance Coaching, CPC. So, or you can call him DC. He has more than 15 years experience also a qualified master NLP and life coach. And he writes for Entrepreneur Magazine, Expert Hub, and Custom Performance Coaching. Feel free to ask questions pertaining to the topic in the Zoom chat room. We'll answer if we have enough time. Let's welcome DC, Sustainable High Performance Culture Creation. So hand over the screen to you.
Thank you
DC.
so much, Lewis.
Thank you.
Sorry, just a sec. There we go. So high performance in business has taken on new meaning. What does that even mean during times of uncertainty? And that's what I'll be focusing on today during my talk. Culture in general. The first element is, what is it not? A high performance culture is not a toxic culture. What is a toxic culture? It's where there's a lot of MC, where MC is a sport, where there is slow work, where there is non-performance in relation to KPIs and goals. A high performance culture is the opposite. It's where we actually as a team meet our targets, even exceed them, and are at a high level in terms of the market domination. So the next question is, and this is a critical question, Is high performance even possible during times of crisis? But here's the critical thing. We've been working with many companies during this time of crisis to pivot, to change their way of thinking, to change their mindset, to open up new, go out on the way. You have to be brave enough to do something. Purely a risk management approach, which is of course necessary. It is of utmost importance during times of crisis to employ risk management strategies. But at the same time, you must take action. You must go on the offensive as well, whether that is by pivoting to online, whether that is by creating new revenue streams. You have to do something. So here is some critical issues in relation to performance management and practical steps that you can engage in immediately. So the first thing is dial down, lower your standards maybe on average when it comes to goals and KPIs, but have them. Harvard research has proven that 90% of all employees and of KPIs to be able to perform. Now, dialing down our KPIs and goals might mean the first goal is pure survival. That might be the case. But we have to have those goals and we have to have those KPIs for our employees to understand and have a clear path forward to take action upon. That is critical to your success, not only your survival, but to thrive after these times of uncertainty. So clear direction must be given. Later on in my presentation, I will mention that lack of clarity is often the cause for resistance to change amongst employees. Purely lack of clarity is often a critical factor when employees resist the changes that you want to implement as a business owner or as top management structure of a business. So therefore, clear communication is of the utmost importance. Go further in this presentation, what I mean in practical terms. What does clear communication mean? And that leads me to what I've already mentioned. Because it's critical, I will repeat it. What appears to be resistance to change is often just a lack of clarity, especially during these times when your employees might experience a bigger amount of stress in their personal lives and now at work or whilst doing remote work, even more so than ever before. Clarity in your communication to employees in terms of why they should do it, what they should do, and when they should do it must be clear. And you must get feedback on that to ensure that there is clarity amongst all parties. So clarity of communication, as I mentioned, is a critical point. That's why I mentioned it again. And then you have to and certainty. So a lot of talk going on about managing times of uncertainty and how do we bring certainty to times of uncertainty? Well, here is an answer. Unfortunately, that is a lecture by itself, so I'll keep it short. You need to manage the positives of uncertainty because they are, and I will elaborate. You need to manage the negatives of uncertainty. And at the same time, you have to manage the positives of certainty. And for sure, there are negatives related to certainty. What are the negatives in relation to certainty? Well, boredom. If we were just sure of everything, of every tactic that will propel us forward, and we forever just keep on doing it in the same vein, certainty can become both boring and irrelevant over time. So there are negatives to certainty. Don't just ask for side. We have to manage the negative side of certainty as well. Then the positive of certainty, of course, is that employees top structure of a business, have clarity in the way forward. And you might have had to dial down on your vision, on your future goals, but at the same time, you still have to go after it. You still have to give clear direction to your employees. What are our goals? Even if it's just pure survival, how are we going to do it? And when are we going to do it? And what help do we need? And that must be crystal clear. Now, Harvard research has proven that the top CEOs of Fortune 500 companies on average make decisions on around 60% of the information that they require to act fast. During times of uncertainty, that might be 30%. You might only have 10% of the information available for you to make a clear decision. But the point during this point in time cannot by itself propel you forward. A pivot, but a well thought out, a well planned pivot and well executed pivot might be a requirement for you to thrive after these times of COVID-19. So to sum up, you have to manage both certainty and uncertainty. And now back to the earlier point, your employees might resist the change that you are trying to employ. That is quite natural. The first point of action is to be extremely clear on your communication. And your communication must be inspirational during this time. If you as top structure put more fear into the hearts of your employees and put more doubt and insecurity in their minds, of course, it's very hard to perform and go forward as a collective. You need to inspire them with your new vision for the future and clear direction in terms of what are we going to do and how are we going to do this. Even if only 10% or 20% of the information is available to you, you have to start making decisions about that. If not, how can you go forward? So here are my contact details. If you want me to elaborate more about that, currently we are engaging a lot of companies in terms of how to pivot, how to manage uncertainty, and how to put certainty back into your business equation. I'll share one practical example. I am not going to name the company's name or the CEO, but they are in the event space. And they had to pivot immediately to ensure them to not only survive now, but thrive afterwards. They pivoted online training, and they are far along in the process of execution, and they are doing it brilliantly well. And that's purely because they made the decisions to act. They were not purely engaging in a risk management strategy. Of course, they are cutting costs. Of course, there's even considerations of letting employees go. That is a consideration. But at the same time, they are taking action, pivoting, creating new revenue streams as we speak, and already gaining revenue from that. So the answer to this is performance possible during times of crisis and uncertainty? The positive answer, for sure, yes. But, as I mentioned before, manage both certainty and uncertainty. And with that, I want to sincerely thank you for your time, and I wish to pivot and the ability to execute risk management strategies at the same time. The balance between both is a starting point to success. Nobody has a crystal ball. Nobody has all the correct answers available. But if you approach the future with a balanced strategy, you can survive, and it's possible to thrive during this time of crisis and uncertainty. Thank you so much, Lewis.
Hey, thank you, DC. Yeah, open to panelists. You have any opinion to share? Any question you want to ask? Feel
Good
free
afternoon.
to.
First of all, thanks for the sharing, DC. This is Yihao here. My question will be, you mentioned the keyword here is the balance approach. Now, as a business owner right now, I think the balance is actually the definition will be vary. So can you give a bit further advice at how we do define this so-called balance here? Thank you.
Didn't hear the full question, but just to be sure, you want me to elaborate on how to maintain that balance and elaborate on what it exactly means.
Yeah, exactly. Right now, this the situation, the situation are changing dynamically, and as a business owner here, yes, we know balance is the key word, but somehow in the reality, how do we strike a balance? Could you give advice on this some tips? How to balance the point over here to manage the situation? Thank you.
Okay, a very good question. Now, as you correctly said, there's no 100% perfect answer to this. It's a dilemma. The difference between a dilemma and a problem is a dilemma can be managed over time. A problem could have an immediate solution. That balance, you can't find an immediate solution to. It has to be well managed over a long period of time. So how do you do that? That's the critical point here. So you have to, what are you sure of? What current income streams do you have? What can you extrapolate on going forward? But you also have to navigate the negative points of, so you actually have to create a model for this. It has to actually be resulting in a plan, a written plan that immediately has to be executed. And then you have to navigate the negative points of certainty, which I said is becoming irrelevant over time. If you just keep on doing the same things over and over again and expecting different results, that's insanity according to Einstein. So create that model of the negative points, positive points of certainty, and then you do the same for your business in relation to uncertainty. What are the positive points of uncertainty? Well, it's fresh, it's new. Whatever we are trying, it is a fresh impact on the market. We can be key market players in a segment that we are creating. It brings excitement, it brings new energy into my team. The negatives are that it brings fear, it brings doubt, it brings insecurity. So how do we navigate that? It's through clear communication, it's through clear planning, it's through execution, it's through trial and error according to our clear execution plan. Now, I know that's a long answer. I hope it answers you to a degree. But if you create that model of pluses and minuses and act on it, you are managing the polarity between uncertainty and certainty over a period of time. I hope that answers you.
Hey, thanks, DC. I think
it's a mouthful.
Yeah. In fact, if I can put my understanding to that, it's more like I come out a business strategy, which is a balance point. I need to have parameters. So those are the things on the positive and the negative always in mind to assess the situation and hope that I will fine-tuning along the journey that will be solved by all my possibility and we're able to preserve for the survivor, right? So this is the concept you're saying.
That's a very good explanation. You did much better than me.
All right. Thanks, DC. I think thanks for the input. Yeah, I appreciate it.
It's a big pleasure.
Yeah.
And any more? Yeah, feel free to go ahead to ask a question or add any things you would like to comment. Yeah, this year you have a scenario. A lot of companies now, actually the market shrinks. So as a result, their existing revenue or sales revenue stream depleted. And from this, so in order for them to break even or survive, so the companies still need to explore a new sales revenue stream. So vision will still unclear because vision usually, business vision is still very much depend on the revenue stream or where the direction they should go. So during those still planning or still try to find the new or additional sales revenue. So how the business owner should manage that situation so that they can manage it more effectively?
Very good questions, and this is high-level questions. If it becomes too difficult, can I pass them on?
Yeah, okay.
No,
we have many of us, so no worry. None of us are perfect. We all try our best.
Yeah, so a answer to that, I mean, as I said, nobody has a crystal ball, but a practical working method towards an answer would be, I ask all companies that I personally work with to not give up on their ultimate vision. It might be put forward in time, but giving up on that vision straight away is already admitting defeat to a degree. So let's say you had a vision that you wanted to be materialized 20, 30, whatever, but please don't let go of it, because a future vision gives us inspiration to move towards a common goal together. And that should be discussed and shared with all team members. If there's no inspiration during this time, how are employees going to go forward? So the first part of my answer, Lewis, please do not let go of that vision. The second part, you're 100% right. Most companies have to pivot towards new income streams, but that depends on the nature of business, of course. So during my presentation, I shared an example of an events company pivoting towards online training as a revenue stream, as to live stream talk shows as well as a revenue stream. And they are successfully executing that. So there's proof that you can do it, but still do it in alignment with your vision. Don't go too far out. How will you attain it? Of course, there's a pivot required, but your ultimate vision is still something that you should be after. Strongly believe in that.
Yeah, actually, one of the way that I come across during consulting work is that what they do is to repurpose the product. Actually, what we do is just to share with you, one of the method we use is called repurpose of the product. And what we do is that we look at the existing product and the core competency of the company, because they've been building on it for years and decades. So this is something they can use again. So then, but the mindset of change is important. So like example of Starbucks. Starbucks is co-founded by 3 academia, and people love coffee. So they start selling coffee and also coffee equipment for many years, until Howard Shaw come in to say, hey, let's do a cafe culture. Then the co-founder didn't believe it. Then Howard Shaw left. He started his own cafe. And after a few years, it became a very big success at the time. So Howard Shaw came back to Starbucks, bought over the entire company and changed it to the Starbucks we know today. And the other one is a Jollibee. Jollibee is a company that evaluated about about 1.5 billion US dollar last year. So they actually started many years ago as an ice cream. They actually now the success stories that they sell are very nice and tasty hamburger and sandwiches and also fried chicken. And what they have done during the time they launched, actually they were selling ice cream. Then eventually they found that, my goodness, actually people prefer hamburger and sandwiches and fried chicken more, and they changed. So the whole business grows so well until they took over. Last year, they acquired the whole Coffee Bean and Tea Life for more than 350 million US dollar. So normally it's a change mindset. We have to, change is good a lot of time, but we need to manage it. Then how to look into the product is to look at the pain that is solving, because people consumption can differ. Like if I buy a chocolate, if I don't like it or I don't have money, I don't buy. But if let's say I have an illness, I have a stomach pain, that purchase cannot be deferred, or something like illness like cancer, I cannot. If I defer, I die. So look into the product and see what are the pain and also the dying situation they will solve for this market, then position that quickly. So these are a few methodology we use. So I think probably is relevant. Anyone, please feel free to share. Yeah. DC, any comment? Anyone feel free to comment? Just a sharing.
Yeah, Lewis, I totally agree with you on that point. A total pivot doesn't have to happen. It could be an existing product that you embrace the changes in the market and adjust the product towards that. And you are 100% correct. Now is the time for embracing change. And as I mentioned during my presentation, embracing change is first to your change initiative is usually just a lack of clarity. Not always, but usually. So that is why a clear communication around your product, the way forward, etc., must be prevalent, and it must be now. The longer you have your employees wait on the direction forward, the more the fear will build. So now it's about a pivot. It can be according to your existing product range. It can also be a complete pivot towards totally new income streams for you, as long as your skill set aligns with it. If you are trying things that's totally beyond your skill set, then collaborations are required. First, establish the collaboration with another company whose skills align with what you are trying to achieve. Don't just haphazardly run to any new income stream. That will not allow you to ultimately attain your vision. That's my opinion, Lewis.
Thank you, thank you. So when make changes at time, sometimes they do need to let go of their old frame of mind. So sometimes we also learn that people using meditation technique like Ray Dalio on the Beatnk. He using a lot of meditation for him to look into solution, think about the situation. So probably now a lot of business owners should learn meditation so that they can sleep better and come up with creative idea to change.
Well, Lewis, a lot of my online coaching has been just that.
Oh, okay.
How to teach CEOs to have a clear frame of mind, a positive frame of mind, because then your decision making is more rapid, is more clear. In a state of fear, doubt, insecurity, doesn't matter at what level you operate, does not lead to embracing change, does not lead to positive action. So the foundation of your pivot, of your strategy, is a clear mindset and a positive mindset on the way forward. That's actually my advice to any company at this point. It's about the lead in a positive state of mind. How can you carry that across to your employees? How can we go towards a vision or go forward together? So I think you are correct there, Lewis. It's all about mindset at this point in time, or that's the starting point.
Thank you, DC. Yeah, anyone would like to any question from the floor? Okay, we have okay. If not, then I would like to share screen and continue to the third speaker, Arno. Let me introduce Mr. Arno Kies, founder and director of REBL Technologies. Arno have more than 20 years experience in implementation of complicated or complex financial IT solution in the area of treasury, asset management, corporate finance system in the market such or countries or zone such as Europe, Middle East, Southeast Asia. And Arno have a Master of Science in Actuarial Sciences, University of Corvinus, Hungary. And feel free to ask questions pertaining to the topic in Zoom chat room. We'll answer if you have time. Let's welcome Arno. Issue of queuing and appointments faces by institution during MCO and how technology could help. Over to you.
Hello, everybody. Thanks, Lewis.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me here. I prepared for today with something maybe a lighter topic than the previous ones. I won't talk about strategy and general risk management. I talk about something which is, from my point of view, a bit more tangible. I will share my screen, of course, my presentation. Just a second. Share screen. Here we go. Hope you received. Share.
Yep, it's coming up. Yes, it's good.
Okay, and then I jump at the beginning, of course. Well, yes, indeed. My background, I was working with big institutions, mostly in the financial sector. Then, with my company, which we established here in Malaysia before, everybody's asking. Staying in Malaysia for quite some time, more than 10 years. And after that, we established our own company with my partners. One of the technologies we are trying to deliver to the market, it's actually from Europe. One of the technologies is on queuing. We do other stuff. We are enthusiasts of blockchain technology, which is not only trending now, but we believe it will change a lot in the different industries. But today I will speak about something, another topic, which is related to the queuing, the appointments. Why is that? Because it's especially relevant now during the COVID-19 outbreak. It's even now that today the Malaysian government that said they will ease the opening times before they allow restaurants to open for longer, and especially important could be to have a technology behind. So queuing in general, well, I would say people in general hate queuing. So I do for sure. If I see a queue in front of a restaurant, I will walk away. Oh, that sounds my life. Well, there are no exceptions though on the globe. Of course, first of all, we all know are the Japanese. They will queue for everything. And suddenly, of course, since I'm here, who else? Malaysians for food. I've seen it's more like a cultural thing than anything else. Than look at this immigrations, hospitals, but also the individual businesses. They have lots of crowded waiting areas for the services. And just sometimes you can forget about the COVID. We can say create not only customer dissatisfaction or nervousness, but also we are very, very unproductive. And from this point of view, adding the COVID-19 pandemic, the problems, the social distancing, and basically everybody has to, each and every shop, each and every business owner has to monitor the number of people inside and outside the shops. We come back to that. So again, if we don't think about the virus, the COVID and the movement control order, the fluctuation, the services, the heavy load, and sometimes can also cause problems in terms of the efficiency, in terms of the revenues, in terms of how you serve your clients. Well, there are, before you think that I'm only want to talk only about one solution. No, there are certain solutions on the market, kind of a number of solutions on the market. First of all, let's go with the classic ones. You go into the branch, you go to the kiosk, you select your service, and you get a paper-based ticket. However, we have problems with that. First of all, you have to go there, you take the ticket, and you wait when it's your turn. Sometimes you wait 1 hour, 2 hours, sometimes 10 minutes, you're lucky. Again, it depends on the service. And the other one is you have to wait on site, because otherwise you never know when it's your turn. Even if you make some educated guess, you can still miss your turn. From business point of view, of course, you have a hardware to maintain, paper is out, machine has to be repaired. We've seen that even as a customer. So the flow is the following: you go, you enter, you go to the fancy or less fancy machine, you get your ticket, you wait in the queue, look at the face of the gentleman, he's already very bored at the bottom. Then you will be called on the TV, and then you get your service, obviously. So that's the classic approach. Newer solutions will give you maybe an estimated, a better estimated waiting time, telling you that there are 5 people in front of you, but you still have to wait on site. So you might miss your turn if you leave to have a coffee. So newer solutions will give you something better. Let's call them the digital solutions. The possibility to to queue remotely. Sorry, the mosquito, that's part of the life. Website or the application of the service provider. So less people will come on site. That's basically, I should be the bare minimum for any type of solution nowadays. We come back online and provide the expected time of service. You're around half an hour, it will be your turn. These solutions are green, important. No need to print out papers, no need to have inks or provide inks or to have any hardware for that matter. There are several solutions matching those, also several solutions matching those basic needs already. So there's the flow. I don't want to read it, of course. Choose your phone, use your phone, get an electronic ticket. And then when you get to the branch, at some point you will be called. So we call it digital check-in, informing and provide service. But is it enough? So the basic solutions still have lacking a few features, which I want to talk about. So safety first, I put it here. With the global pandemic, we had to be a bit stricter. And then as everybody mentioned, that probably the pandemic is not over. So even if the numbers are getting better, everybody's afraid of a second wave, third wave, until we have a rock solid or a very efficient cure for that. We can't really believe that it won't come back. So there will be several waves. So we have to think about that. In terms of retailers, so those companies that have branches, obviously we have to talk about the social distancing. First of all, you have to limit your number of customers in store. Even you see here, first in Europe, but even in Malaysia, I found going to the shops. It was last weekend in Mid-Valley. I had to wait outside because they were counting number of people in the store. And obviously, this brings you a problem. If I have to wait outside, there will be a queue outside in the line. As much as you want to have the distancing 1 meter, 1.5 meter, still people that have crossed next to each other, they have to move around, they get nervous, they just walk up and down. So it's not really the solution. What you can do in these cases, generic, if you have a proper solution, if you can deploy a solution which manages to both issues. So first of all, store control. Solution, very simple solution. Actually, this is not a big thing. Solution which manages calculates the number of people going in and out. So click, similar to the machinery, the mechanic version which they're using in the airplanes, if you remember. But you can do it obviously an electric or a tablet or a phone. Queue control is the more important. Instead of having the people coming on site, let them book their time and then only come when it's their turn or in that 20 minutes or before 20 minutes, so that if the queue is faster, you can get in. No need to go one by one. You can have a 20 people in between 10 and 10:30. You call the next 20 people in between 10:30 and 11. So this is a solution which you need for that. Basically, how does it work? And store control, you manage the number of people who are inside. It's obviously they have to register in advance, and then you have nowadays there are solutions like our solution where you can check the electronic ticket. We are providing a QR code, for example, so that at the entrance, the person, you can read the QR code and then check how many people they got in. Of course, when I'm out, they can also check who went out. There are so many options to manage that. In terms of the queue control, you have again solution. You need a solution which allows you to do remote queuing. So you do it from home at the convenience of your home, and then you only go there whenever is your need. So forget about stores as well. Think about banks, think about other institutions. I mentioned the government institutions. So what happens is that you digital check-in, basically you just wait for your ticket to be called once you are there. And then either this is done outside, or you have to go inside, and then they allow you 10 minutes before your turn to sit down and wait. Ticket will be checked up on entrance. That should be a minimum. So nobody can enter the branch without having an approved ticket, or a valid ticket, I would say. I'm calling electronic ticket, could be a QR code, could be a number, as you see on the top right part of the screen. While a good solution would manage both queues and appointments. Why do I mention that? You have the option of, I want to go quickly somewhere and I really need the first available spot. That's we call queuing. You just look for it and then look for the available service, and then you go there to get your service. The appointment is when I have a bit more time. So I want to make for the next days, let's say Monday afternoon, 2 p.m. I want to go for a bank branch for applying for some personal loan, which I badly need these times. In that case, obviously, you have a fixed timing. Still, due to the nature of the businesses, you still have to give the option to the people to go on site. And then we call them a walk-in customers. It depends on the nature of your business, to be honest. We have our solution working at the Thai embassy in Kuala Lumpur. And Thai embassy practices that they won't allow you to go in unless you have a valid electronic ticket, which is valid not for the next 20 to 30 minutes. You can't go earlier. Probably you can't go later, but the main idea, you have to have a valid ticket. So you can't go there and ask for a ticket. They will ask you to do it outside at home on your mobile phone or your laptop. So that's obviously not practical in case of let's say, a grocery store. You can't expect the people that while they're doing the shopping in other places, they just book their time for the shopping. But for certain businesses, this is doable. Let me try to summarize what are the key factors for a different or a groundbreaking and very efficient digital solution. First of all, nowadays, start in a few days. And what's also most important, which we practiced during the last months, without on-site preparation. So the team, your team, our team, the vendors team shouldn't go on site. All the discussions can be done as we do via video call. You can do training nowadays, of course, video call, and the deployment of the solution is being cloud-based can be done remotely. So preparation is basically a few hours only. Then you can deploy and they can use it. What you need for this solution is a mobile phone and your laptop, and that's it. And maybe a TV screen to project the tickets and the names. No hardware investment because of that. Again, you have your mobile phone already. You can reuse your laptops. You can reuse all the machinery. You can use your old TVs in the store. What we did in case of embassy as well. And well, no application needed. People hate to download application unless you want to drive your clients to your mobile application because it gives additional solution. Then additional features, provides additional features. Then just let them queue through your website. Let them select the service and they queue to your website. And well, obviously I mentioned about the cloud solution, which should be operated by the vendor, which means then again, very free for you. Most of the cases, getting a new solution, even digital solution, it will have to do, you have to have a fight with the IT. I was working in the banking environment. Those that are working in the banks, they know that banking IT is it's almost impossible to convince that this thing is good and they have to work with it and they have issues with it. So it's not easy. So if you deploy a solution which has no integration with any in-house system, then they will be happy. Okay, they just they will let you through. Business model, obviously, only pay for what you use. So it's use the monthly subscription. It works for all kinds of our businesses. Why wouldn't it work for the digital queuing as well? We also, and I have to refer back to the speakers who spoke before, that trying to make the difference, we are offering free of charge, several months, commitment-free usage of the system, which means that after the 3 months, 4 months after the pandemic is over, you can discontinue. This is how we try to make a difference, obviously, for a limited number of companies. They apply for it. Well, life after COVID, obviously, the world will be not the same anymore. Everybody's saying that it's nothing new, that social distancing will be, to some extent, still important in the foreseeable future, especially if, which I believe there will be more waves of the pandemic or other viruses. The same solution you can use for a normal influenza or flu, which also takes, let's not forget, life of hundreds of thousands of people on a yearly basis. Well, but for our point of view, having such a solution is increasing efficiency after we remove the virus from our lives. So problems are industry specific, of course. We have clients, that's why I put it, we have clients at banks, hair salons, repair shops, hospitals, embassy. They all have a different specifics. So you have to have a solution which is flexible enough, parameter driven, and it provides you lots of flexibility in order to manage various processes. It is possible. So I'm almost at the end. I just listed a few features of an efficient queuing system, and maybe you can take a look at it, and upon request, I can send you my deck via email. Just drop me an email, and I'm happy to share with you, to any of you. Some of the important things is that, of course, from business point of view, is that to be flexible enough to manage your flows, to be configurable, white labeled, etc., etc. I mentioned this Malaysian request. It's not only specific to Malaysia, but one of the banks, they asked me, how do you measure? Because the banks they have in the branches, they have a requirement to complete a certain processes within 10 to 15 minutes, let's say opening an account. I don't know exactly the time frame. So you have to have a tool which, when the client sits down in front of you, you know where the time is ticking. When it's over, you just click, and then you can provide audited reporting, which is important. And you can see in the bottom of the screen as well, the advanced reporting capabilities should be there, so that you know how efficient you were in serving the client, how much they had to wait, and how fast you served them. And these all the reports should be available. Maybe the last two slides. Channel optimization is the new, I would say, trend in each and every business. I'm talking about a lot about banks, of course, but that's where I'm coming from. But most important thing is, instead of using so many different channels to serve the client, at least try to use one solution which directs them to the right channel. Are you sure you have to go to the branch to resolve a problem? No. Go check. You want to cash in some money. You can go to an ATM. You want to take a loan, first you can talk to our representatives, etc., etc. So a nice solution it's not only to provide you a queuing ticket or appointment possibility, but also to help you in going to various, or getting to the right channel within the institution. And one fancy thing, of course, which is also nowadays a must, help your clients to find the shortest queue. So if you are this is a map of Budapest, by the way. So one of the shops is using this feature. If you want to have a consumer loan, then you can see what are the open shops nearby you, where's the queue is the shortest, what's the expected queuing time. So basically you can choose, especially in the big city, you can choose to go to the nearest, or maybe not as near, but the waiting time is 1 hour less. So nowadays this type of solution is more and more expected from the clients, so that provide a better customer experience for the customers. So that's that. Again, our expertise coming from really various institutions, businesses, hair salons, yoga studio in Kuala Lumpur, banks, as I mentioned, the embassy as well, or events as well, treatment rooms, events. Well, that's it more or less. Again, our company established in Malaysia, and then happy to continue discussion on the topic or other topics we are pursuing, including blockchain. That's it. Thank you very much for your time. I'm looking for if any questions, explanations.
Hey, thank you, Anna. So any question from the panelists?
Erno, it's Steve here from ACMF BOSR. Looking at this as a solution, it seems to me that particularly as we come out of the MCO, it would be wise for shopping malls to offer this kind of solution to basically all of the shops that are inside that mall, so that obviously you can manage queue sizes so they don't get too long, as you described in Mid-Valley. It's kind of pointless stood in a long queue where you're quite close to each other if the whole point of the queue is to stop you being so close to each other. That way, I think also it probably benefits the shops in the mall that maybe don't have queues, because you're more likely to be walking around those shops whilst you're waiting for your turn at your destination, you know, the shopping, the supermarket or whatever, or the bank. So, because I can see that obviously, even though everybody wants to rush back and buy things, there's a lot of SOPs that have to be followed by the shopping malls. This, to me, seems like it would be a really good way to help the shopping malls follow those SOPs. And even, there may be privacy constraints here, but even you could identify who's in what queue at what time. So you've got a certain element of contact tracing if it comes to the fact that, you know, someone who's later diagnosed with COVID, you can identify where they were at that time. That also would help the authorities to track later. So do you think that's a useful useful use of your thing?
Well, Stevie just said everything. I mean, I even had a slide about that. Just wanted to make my presentation short. It's minus the COVID part. And the tracing. It's a even better idea. Our idea is that let's take a shopping mall best example. When you want to resolve certain shopping tasks, you can make a booking basically the system could help you with a sequence in which you should go to the various shops. So I go to 10:30 to hair salon, 12 o'clock, not me, I don't need it, but as a lady, and 2 hours later or 3 hours later, you have your appointment immediately at the manicure, then 1 hour later you have the grocery, and then, so basically even the system, we're going to the direction that these solutions will be able to help you in planning your whole journey. So I think it's really a beautiful example how.
Because it's very much like theme parks, right? I think these systems first came into play in theme parks, because obviously if you're in a queue in a theme park, you're not spending money elsewhere.
Exactly.
And again, this, I think, for shopping malls is a perfect fit to encourage people to part with more money in a shorter space of time.
Well, one of our clients in the let's call it the German Harvey Norman, which is called Media Mart, they introduced our system to check how what is the effect on their sales. So basically what they realized that once they have the solution which helped them in both in the queuing for the payments or picking up the heavy machinery or applying for loans, once they introduced their sales, they had a considerable rise in their sales. Why is that? Because instead of people staying in the queue, they were going out, oh, I forgot this, oh, I have to buy this plug, oh, let me buy this CD. So basically it generates additional sale. It's very important for them. And then you can add that, if you've seen the slides, you can basically in the electronic tickets, you can put ads. Let's say that, okay, while you're waiting, why don't you go to the next coffee shop and you get 50% off the coffee. So using this ticket or using this QR code, it's a cross-selling. It really opens a lot of possibilities. So from the paper-based, take your ticket and wait there for hours or 10 minutes, we're already arriving to a phase where a system can offer you so many possibilities. So thank you. Yeah, it's a great example.
Hey, I have a question. This is Yihao here for ACMF BOSR Consulting. Just read out the question raised by the audience from L. Chan. The question looks like this. Difficult to gauge from the wait call time, and each person have different needs, especially at bank, whereby the person in front of you can do numerous transactions. So with that, any advice to L. Chan for this?
Yeah, obviously when you select a service, you want to know what exactly the clients they want. Look at the banks, and the banks usually when you want to go service, there is one for the cash desk. So when you want to deposit or withdraw money, it will be a very different service from the loans or from account opening. So first of all, you have to create wisely your time. I mean your services to segregate. That's one. Secondly, obviously there's still, as you mentioned, that there's some people, oh, and I have one more question, oh, I have another question. What happens in that case? Obviously the system will be able to measure the waiting times, and then if somebody has a delay in being serviced, can automatically redirect to another counter. That's one. And secondly, for those that didn't yet reach the branches, these, in our solution at least, it's a dynamic recalculation of the expected call time. So basically we tell you that we will call you, let's say, we send you an SMS 10 minutes before you have to go to the branch. So then you can still move around. Maybe this 10 minutes, it will change, not the 10 minutes will change, but it can be sent later than expected because there is a delay in the services. But you don't have to worry, you don't have to go there. We know that exactly 10 minutes or more, most probably 10 minutes before your time or your service time, you can go around and do shopping. So there are various solutions to help this problem, and then you don't have to worry.
Right. Thank you, Adam.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yeah, okay. Yes, we have a time. Okay, allow me to share my screen. Is that okay? I will continue to go ahead and take it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, today's thank you everyone for participation. Yeah, thank you. And today's Asia Business Talk Show will be uploaded to YouTube. And if any speaker keen to explore speaking in Asia Business Talk Show, please send your or contact us at abts@acmfgroup.com. I truly appreciate DC, Arno, and Tanner, and also ACMF BOSR, ACMF Business App, corporate services, digital human capital, strategy alliances, and strategy and grow. Asia Business Talk Show next one will be next Friday, 3:30 p.m. at GMT 800. Thank you very much. Thank you. Have a good day. Have a good weekend, everyone.